Hey Steve, it's Thursday and I got a sleeping baby inside and it's beautiful outside, so I am doing this in my backyard. Dude, I cannot believe that we are rounding the corner for Pascha and sweet, sweet brisket. I want all the brisket. I am concerned that you heard me say I want a lot of brisket. What I said is I want all the brisket. Anyway, let's make like a cardiologist and examine the heart. Question 1, how do I build discernment? Recently, I was having a conversation with a friend who was working through some big questions, but he was doing so largely by himself. I encouraged him that this was probably a surefire way to step headlong into delusion. Even as I was reading Wounded by Love the other night, St. Porphyrios had this idea that he wanted to go out into the desert and without a trade to support himself. But when he confessed this to his elder was able to say, dude, don't do that, that's delusion. And in both of these conversations, it dawned on me how important it is for us to not go at things by ourselves. The wisdom of the church instructs us to lean on our spiritual father and on our godparents when it comes to navigating our spiritual lives. I think this really is huge because we easily can slip into delusion if we try to do it by ourselves. So for me, besides my wife, I tend to lean pretty heavily on my parents and a few close friends and on my spiritual father when I'm trying to make some wise choices. I speak with them about all the factors that are at play and I try to be as open and as honest as possible because I really want to be able to make a good choice. Over time though, I found that I need to talk to them less and less. Not because I've become more discerning, but because I've internalized their discerning voices. I think I just know what they would say for the most part. I'll never have all the discernment by myself, but through enough conversations with them, I can hear their voices. And I absolutely still lean on them, but the need for immediate conversation has decreased. Question 2, how do I treat others as my brothers and sisters in Christ? One of the basic rights that I think everybody has is understanding. Everybody deserves to be understood. And this is one of the things that I try to do even though I often fail at it. I want my brothers and sisters in Christ, even those with whom I strongly disagree, to feel that I understand where they're coming from. And what's more, I actually do want to understand where they're coming from. I don't want to be yet another voice in the fray that is just constantly talking over other people, getting louder and madder when somebody doesn't think like I do. I want to be an ear that listens compassionately, a person that bears witness to the love of God by not being reactive when someone says or does something that I don't like. I know that I feel really good when somebody takes the time to understand me. So I think that even if there's someone who's doing something that I don't like, at least having a modicum of understanding is a really practical and important way to love them. Question 3, in times when God seems to be hiding his face, what do I do? Honestly, I usually despair. And I imagine that he's hiding his face because of something that I've done. I blame myself or I beat myself up thinking that it has to do something with how unlovable I am or how terrible of a Christian I am. It takes a lot of work for me to not walk down the path of despair and self-abuse. But I think this is why it's so important that we cultivate discernment and especially that we know the scriptures so that we can recall stories of when God has acted similarly. For example, I think of the death of Lazarus. Christ finds out that Lazarus is sick and he waits for 2 days before leaving for Bethany. And by the time he finally gets there, Lazarus has already been dead for 4 days. Mary and Martha are both like, what the heck? You could have saved him. But Jesus is essentially just like, don't worry about it, I got this. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that even though it seemed like Christ was hiding or at least taking his sweet time to show up, in the end, he did show up. And so in my life, it might mean a few days of waiting for him, so to speak, but I think that's just part of this whole thing. Christians have been people of waiting from the beginning. Sure, we're also doers, but we wait. Waiting is the posture of faith, waiting for him to come to us, waiting to receive him. The Theotokos received him when Gabriel came to her, and we are to have the same posture. My only hope is that instead of crumbling under the weight of despair, I can stand bravely and look eastward for his arrival. All right, Steve, that's all I got. I'll see you on Monday.